The events unfold in Kirkdarroch, a quiet Scottish village. Life here goes on as usual, with no crime and no real upheavals. But very soon, that will come to an end. Tom Kendrick is the local doctor. He is married to Kate, a homemaker. The couple has 3 wonderful daughters, Iris, Emily, and Charlotte. They seem like the perfect family. Today there is a festival taking place in the village, so all the residents are enjoying themselves. Kate does not even allow herself an extra pastry, because she is always on one diet or another. She strikes up a conversation with their neighbor, Jess Milner. The woman is upset because she and her boyfriend are soon about to go through another round of IVF. The couple has been trying to have a child for a long time, although Steve already has 2 sons from a previous marriage, Elliot and Lewis. As a primary school teacher, Jess loves children very much. The festival ends late in the evening. The Kendricks and the Milners say goodbye. The neighbors are very close. Tom, by the way, also happens to be Jess's doctor. The boys cannot sleep, so Jess goes to their room to settle them down. At that moment she is horrified to see that the Kendricks' house is on fire. The couple rushes over there at once. As a police sergeant, Steve Campbell knows how to act in situations like this, but the flames have already grown far too strong. Other neighbors have gathered there as well. Everyone is panicking because the whole family is still inside. The Kendrick girls are locked in a room, so Steve cannot get them out. But he does manage to pull out Kate, who unfortunately is no longer breathing. Jess keeps desperately calling out to the girls, but they do not answer. Everyone there is utterly helpless in the face of the flames. Efforts to resuscitate Kate fail. She is dead. Meanwhile, Steve, already nearly choking in the acrid smoke, pulls Tom out of the burning house. He at least is alive. Some people cry over how helpless they feel. The firefighters arrive. By that point nothing can be done for the 3 girls. Tom is rushed to intensive care. Jess does not leave his hospital bedside. She keeps thinking about the Kendricks. It is a terrible tragedy for all of Kirkdarroch. By morning the firefighters are still putting out the last remnants of the flames in the charred ruins. 3 bodies lie on the ground in black plastic bags. People mourn their shared tragedy. The coroner prepares to carry out the autopsy. The fact that pine needles were found on one of the bodies raises the suspicion that someone else had been in the house before the fire started, and that the fire was not an accident. Also, judging by the needle marks, all the victims had been injected with something. Until the toxicology report is ready, nothing can be said for certain. The hardest thing for the police officers is informing the victims' relatives. No one could have imagined that a young family's life would be destroyed in such a terrible and senseless way. Tom is the only survivor, but he is in a very serious condition. Judging by all the evidence, the fire started in the kitchen. That evening someone used Kate's phone to call her mother-in-law, Carol. The woman heard no one on the other end and hung up. The most horrifying detail is that someone had put a lock on the outside of the girl's room. Carol even thinks that perhaps it would have been better if her son had died too. Meanwhile, Steve tries to get to the truth. It turns out that Kate had been seeing a therapist. After Charlotte was born, things had been hard for her, even if the people around her might not have noticed it. Kate's psychiatrist insists that lately she had been feeling much better. Kate could not have snapped and decided to take the lives of her entire family. However, while reviewing security camera footage from the local hardware store, Steve discovers that Kate bought a door lock. He simply cannot believe it. The villagers' opinions are divided. Some believe there is a psychopath in their village, others think it was an accident, and others believe that everything in the family was not nearly as perfect as it seemed. One way or another, everyone is struggling with this tragedy. Simon Wells, the head teacher of the school where Kate worked, has been especially shaken by these events. He thought very highly of this woman. Jess refuses to believe that Kate could have harmed her family, although something had clearly been troubling her lately. Kate and Tom often argued. The woman lashed out at her mother-in-law, at the children. Shortly before the tragedy, she lost control of the car and had an accident. The girls and Jess were also in the car. Finally, Tom wakes up. Steve and Jess come to the hospital as soon as they hear. They do not know how to tell him that his wife and daughters are gone. But their faces say it all. The first thing Tom says is, "What did my wife do?" Jess and Tom are lovers. She does everything she can to keep herself together. As soon as the terrible realization hits Tom, he starts sobbing uncontrollably. Soon the man is discharged from the hospital. Despite his grief, he is ready to give a statement right away. Any details will be useful to the police. What happened on the evening of the tragedy and shortly before it? Tom says that lately his wife had been depressed. For some reason he is absolutely certain that she did it. Jess tries to stay by Tom's side all the time, although they cannot let anyone find out about their relationship. Today is the day of the funeral, so they have to go through it all together. In the church during the funeral service, Jess notices an unfamiliar woman. After the service, Jess approaches the woman. She introduces herself as Sasha, Kate's university friend. Sasha has never liked Tom, but she prefers not to explain why. In the car, on the way to the cemetery, Tom places his hand over Jess's hand, even though Steve is right beside them. Jess pulls her hand away. The streets are completely empty, because all the residents have gathered to say their final goodbye to Kate and her 3 daughters. Everyone offers Tom their condolences. While giving the eulogy, the man breaks down and starts to cry. He is living through any person's worst nightmare, losing his entire family all at once. Kate's mother cannot wrap her head around the idea that her daughter could have done something like this. After all, Kate loved her daughters very much. At the wake, all anyone can talk about is how Kate could have done this to her own children. Simon Wells, the head teacher of the local school, however, flatly refuses to believe this version of events. Besides, Tom seems to have accepted far too easily the idea that his wife decided to take the lives of his entire family. Jess and Steve go through their second round of IVF. The woman had taken the first failed round very hard. Kate had been very supportive of her at the time. Steve cannot shake the suspicion that someone else was in the Kendrick house on the night of the tragedy, otherwise where did the pine needles on one of the bodies come from? Jess gives a statement, talking about her friendship with Kate. They were not just neighbors but best friends, despite the fact that Jess had been having an affair with Tom behind Kate's back. Steve decides to search the woods for clues. Could Emily, on whose body the pine needles were found, have been in the woods that night? The sergeant finds an abandoned bicycle. Jess meets with Sasha. Together the women remember Kate. Sasha says that she and Kate had fallen out after Sasha broke up with her boyfriend. Around that time, Tom took advantage of Sasha's vulnerability and began flirting with her. Jess remembers that things with Tom had happened in a similar way. Jess had been deeply depressed because she could not get pregnant, and Tom had found exactly the right words to support her. Only now does Jess realize that Tom manipulated her in the same way he manipulated Sasha. Everything he said to both women was made up of sweet lies meant to earn their trust. Sasha is deeply sorry that she was a bad friend and allowed Tom to mess with her head. Jess can no longer keep this to herself and confesses to Steve that she cheated on him. She assures him that she was drunk, and that it only happened once. After the first failed IVF attempt, Jess felt broken and vulnerable. But to Steve that excuse sounds absurd. She was not the only one who was sad, but that does not mean either of them had the right to cheat. Jess says that in her opinion, Tom may be hiding something. She thought Steve should know. Steve is devastated by the betrayal of the woman he loves. After his first divorce, he believed that the second time around would definitely be different, that he and Jess would have a happy family. But it did not work out. If Jess had told him earlier, he would never have gone through with the second round of IVF. The woman goes to the police station to add to her statement. She believes she is doing this for Kate and her children. Meanwhile, Steve finds a local teenage troublemaker, Dylan Denham Johnson. The abandoned bicycle belongs to him. That night, there was a bonfire party nearby. Dylan, however, refuses to talk to the police sergeant. The young man does not want to get himself into trouble. Carol calls Jess and asks her to pick Tom up from Ruth and Callum Mackenzie's place. He could not get through to Jess himself. She hesitates, but she picks Tom up anyway. The woman tries to talk to him about what happened between them. Tom merely makes it clear that the police do not really need to know about it. After all, what does it have to do with the case? Jess cannot bring herself to admit that the police already know. Dylan is brought to the police station for questioning. The young man says that on the night of the tragedy, he saw Emily, one of the Kendrick daughters, in the woods. According to Dylan, Emily was running and fell, and then Tom, her father, caught up with her. Steve calls Jess and says that Tom did it. They have a witness. Meanwhile, Tom keeps trying to convince Jess that Kate was not in her right mind. Jess does not let on that she suspects him. The woman cannot understand how she could have been so stupid. The warning signs had been there from the very beginning. That same day, Tom is arrested. Dylan lied about seeing Tom catch up with Emily that night. In reality, the person he saw was Kate. Before the tragedy, the couple had been going through a difficult period. One day, tired of his wife's coldness, Tom confessed that he had cheated on her with Jess. Kate seemed not to care. After Charlotte was born, she sank into depression. Like Jess, Kate was a primary school teacher. Lately, she had been wondering why Tom chose her best friends, first Sasha, then Jess. Day after day, Tom was wearing his wife down emotionally. Carol knew what her son was really like, but she was too afraid of him to speak out against him. Now, during questioning, Tom continues to insist that he is the victim. According to him, Kate poisoned them all with insulin, then started the fire. Kate stole the insulin from her husband's bag. When asked where he had got the insulin, Tom cannot give any coherent answer, because this medication is not something even a doctor would normally just have lying around. No one in the family had diabetes. Tom remains calm and completely relaxed for a man accused of being responsible for the deaths of his entire family. Sergeant Steve Campbell joins the questioning and shows the suspect photographs of Emily's body, with the pine needles clearly visible. Tom says he would rather not look at them. Steve demands that Tom explain why his daughter was seen outside 15 minutes before the fire. The man says that is impossible and that he was not in the woods that night, although there is a witness who claims that Tom was the one who grabbed his daughter. More and more inconsistencies appear in his statement. Suddenly Tom changes his story and says that Emily ran out of the house because Kate had lost her mind and frightened the children. But then when would she have had time to inject every member of the family with insulin? The more questions Steve asks, the more Tom's story falls apart. When Steve tried to save the Kendricks and their children from the fire, he found Tom in the bedroom he shared with Kate, even though Tom had previously claimed that he had found his daughters in the girls' room, already lifeless. Tom claimed that he had passed out there too. None of this fits with Emily being seen in the woods. Tom refuses to answer any more questions from the police. He is taken to a custody cell. Tom is allowed to make a phone call. At the first opportunity he calls his mother. After the exhausting interview, Steve goes to the pub to have a pint with his colleague, Constable Gemma Darlington. She is sad to watch Steve waste his talent. He deserves far more than this backwater. Steve, however, does not consider himself talented. Kirkdarroch has swallowed him up. Tom is facing his first night in a cell. Steve feels both satisfaction and pain at the same time. To sort himself out, he attends a therapy session. He has no idea what to do with his own life. Now that Jess's affair has come to light, Steve does not know how to handle it, and on top of that, they still do not know whether the second round of IVF has been successful. Tom needs to know who the witness was, the one who gave false testimony against him. His solicitor, Nikki Earlham, explains that this information is confidential, but Tom does not care. Nikki will try, of course, but she cannot promise anything. There is too much evidence pointing to his guilt: debts, a mortgage, problems in his marriage. Carol visits her son at the first opportunity. Tom seriously doubts that a duty solicitor will be of any use, so he wants his mother to mortgage the farm. He also wants her to borrow money from Ruth and Callum Mackenzie, old family friends, even though he already owes them money. Dylan, who gave evidence against Tom under pressure from Sergeant Steve Campbell, wants to change his statement. Steve threatens the young man, saying that knowingly giving false evidence is a criminal offense. Besides, his parents will clearly not be happy when they find out that their son is involved in something like this. Steve insists that it is too late now. What is done is done. The young man cannot live with that. Gemma Darlington watches the recording of Dylan's interview again and again. With her experience, the constable can tell that the boy is lying. The only question is why. Steve continues going to therapy, although he does not really believe it will help. He is haunted by nightmares about the fire. Despite everything, Steve is sincerely convinced that Tom is behind it, and that justice for Kate and the girls will soon be served. The man says he is satisfied, but in reality that is not true at all. Something is still eating away at him. Steve and Jess, trying hard to keep up the appearance of being a normal couple, have dinner at a restaurant with Steve's ex-wife, Sandra McKay, and her new boyfriend, Luke Richmond, who is younger than she is. Sandra and Luke tell them that they are expecting a baby. It was unplanned, but they are very happy. Steve and Jess force smiles as they congratulate them. The tension between the couple grows, and Jess cannot take it anymore. Steve stays silent all the time, without even once trying to discuss the future of their relationship. Carol keeps replaying Tom's behavior toward Kate in her head, again and again. From the outside they seemed like the perfect family, but behind closed doors everything was far from perfect. Carol misses her next visit with her son in prison. She sends all the money she has to Kate's mother. Tom has no one left on his side. Steve remembers arriving at the scene of the accident after Kate lost control of the car. She looked disoriented. Steve suggests to Gemma that they go to the pub together again that evening, but she needs to have a serious conversation with him. Dylan has retracted his previous statement, claiming that Sergeant Campbell pressured him. No matter how hard Steve tries to prove to his superiors that he is right, Tom will be released today. Steve is suspended and forced to hand over his police badge. Gemma understands that Steve acted out of personal resentment, because of Jess's affair. That is the only reason. The man feels as though he is on the verge of breaking. That same day he beats Dylan up. All of this is slowly driving Steve mad. He gets drunk, remembering how after the accident, Kate tried to explain herself to him, saying that Tom was giving her some kind of sedatives, though the woman did not know exactly which ones. Perhaps the confusion was one of the side effects. At times, Kate did not realize what she was doing. She begged Steve to help, but at that moment he did not believe her. He was furious because Jess and the girls had been in the car too. Steve cries, blaming himself for not listening to Kate when she so desperately needed someone who cared. Tom has been released, and the first thing he does is go to his mother. He hugs the woman tightly and tells her how much he loves her. Soon Tom takes off his wedding ring. Jess finds out that the second round of IVF has failed too. The trial is set to take place in 8 weeks. The fact that Dylan admitted to giving false testimony does not mean Tom has nothing to fear. Nikki Earlham advises him to prepare properly because the suspicions against him have still not been fully cleared. There is other evidence too. Elliot and Lewis still think they are going to have a little brother or sister soon. Steve is terribly exhausted and often snaps at his sons. Jess feels like an outsider in this house, but she cannot accept that this relationship is over. Tom notices that people in the streets are giving him suspicious looks. Apparently many of them really do believe he is guilty. During the investigation, Tom cannot leave town, cannot approach witnesses, and cannot even drive. When Steve finds out that Jess saw Tom in the memorial garden today, he flies into a rage. The mere thought that Tom might approach Jess drives Steve mad. He cannot simply stop loving her just like that. Besides, Steve's sons miss the Kendrick girls terribly. They are still too young to understand what happened. The man admits to Jess that after the accident, Kate asked him for help. She was afraid of Tom. But Steve did not take it seriously. Like everyone else, he believed that Kate was not in her right mind. Tom understands that wherever he goes, he will not be welcome. Nevertheless, he attends a fundraiser for a memorial gazebo. He has not been proven guilty, but everyone seems to have already decided that he is. When Steve sees Tom, he lunges at him, and it almost turns into a fight. Tom shouts loudly enough for everyone to hear that it was his family, and that Steve falsely accused him by pressuring a witness. Jess begs Steve to calm down. He takes this as an attempt to defend Tom. Their relationship is strained to the limit. Steve believes that after cheating on him, she has no right to reproach him for anything. But Jess still says that this is partly his fault. Kate asked him for help, but he chose to act as if nothing had happened. Tom has violated his bail conditions, which makes his situation even worse. Nikki Earlham explains that Tom is not allowed to approach witnesses, and that his attempts to gain sympathy will lead nowhere. The judge is not stupid and will see right through manipulations like that. Presenting himself as the victim is a bad strategy. In response, Tom fires Nikki Earlham. It seems that everyone is against him. The man remembers the day of the tragedy, a few hours before the fire. Kate was chatting warmly with Simon Wells. Tom had long suspected that there might be something more between them than just a working relationship. Sandra plans to take the boys because something is clearly wrong with her ex-husband. If the boys leave, Jess will be left alone with Steve, and she is sure she is ready for an open conversation with him. While Steve is away, Tom comes to see Jess. She does not want to open the door to him, but he begs her to hear him out, because this is about Kate. Jess eventually decides to listen to his version of events. Tom assures her that he would never have harmed his family. After Charlotte was born, Kate fell apart, and he did not know how to help her. Tom was supposed to die too, and now he feels guilty for surviving. When Tom gave his statement to the police, he got confused about the facts, but only because he himself had been poisoned and did not understand what was happening. Tom needed to share this with someone. As soon as he leaves, Jess feels an overwhelming sense of relief. But it does not last long because Steve is ignoring her calls. She finds him in the pub, completely drunk. The man cries, saying that he failed Kate and her girls. Jess takes him home. Finally they talk openly. Steve keeps thinking that he could have saved the girls if he had arrived 1 minute earlier. But the truth is, he could not have, because they were already dead before the fire. Steve asks Jess what made her give in to Tom's flirting. The woman explains that she felt lonely. She never knew what Steve was thinking. Jess wanted a child so badly, but did he want another child? The man says that he only wanted her to be happy. Jess says that both of them should be happy. Steve promises to try harder for her. She admits that she is tired of feeling incapable and intends to stop trying IVF. Steve is ready to accept that. So they give their relationship another chance. Tom submits a formal request to receive the pension payments instead of his mother, explaining it by saying that she has not been well lately. Feeling that Tom was not sincere during their last conversation, Jess comes to speak to his mother. Carol admits that her son often lies and can be very cruel. She is afraid of him, but you cannot stop loving someone, even if they have done something terrible. Jess urges Carol to tell the police everything she knows, so that justice can be served for Kate and the girls. Their conversation is interrupted by Tom's arrival. Once again he says that Kate was ill, and that he was a wonderful father and husband. But Jess no longer believes a single word he says. Furious, she lunges at Tom. The man shouts to his mother to call the police, but Carol does not do it. Later, she and Jess go to the police together. Shortly before the tragedy, Tom listened to a voicemail from Simon on Kate's phone. Simon said that he had arranged everything with the accounts department, and Kate's salary would now be paid into her own account, not Tom's. Tom also found out that his wife had filed for divorce. He deleted all the messages. The next day Tom behaved as if nothing had happened. He asked Kate to stop by the hardware store and buy a lock, supposedly because the one on their shed had broken. That way, Tom deflected suspicion from himself. That same evening he accused Kate of having an affair with Simon and told her that if she left him, she would never get custody of the children. Frightened by her parents' argument, Emily ran out of the house. Kate ran after her. Tom decided that if his family would not belong to him, then they would belong to no one. After Kate and the girl stopped breathing, Tom called his mother from Kate's phone and indirectly confessed to what he had done. He risked his own life too, because there was no guarantee that Steve or anyone else would manage to pull him out of the fire in time. That is how one man's selfishness destroyed 4 innocent lives. Tom is a good actor, but not good enough. He is arrested, this time for good. Jess and Steve's relationship has improved. They will always remember Kate and the girls.